having fun, so you don't have to look.
Hello, Alex.
Wait, I'm confused what our final lesson is.
Hi.
It's any standard you want to use, and then you just record yourself and present.
Why don't we just present it?
You can, or you can record yourself.
I'd rather just present it.
It's easier and less work.
To present it?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I'll just present it. Can I
Because
bring a
we
box?
can use one of the lesson plans that we've already done though too, right?
You just want to make sure that it's like, when we talk today, we'll talk about like a full lesson plan. So like, you don't want it to just be like a little artsy craftsy thing that you do at the end. Like, you would probably want like to connect like an art discussion type standard in there. Like, really
it was like-
beef it up a little. So like, instead of 2 standards, like 1 art, 1 literacy, you'd probably want like 2 art standards and at least 1 of something else, maybe 2 of something else, like a bit stronger.
So are we like actually doing what we said we're gonna do in the lesson plan as a class?
You're gonna have 6 to 8 minutes.
Oh,
So can you do a whole lesson? No, but you could do a part of one.
So we're just explaining.
You're explaining it, you might have them do like a piece. And that might be like, explain the beginning, explain the standards, how you're going to assess. Okay, now this part we're going to jump in and like hands-on, be like the kids in the lesson. And then I'd pause, maybe not giving them the full work time. We'd pause, explain what would happen after this, and like how you would assess what they're working on, closure. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah.
It's one of those where if I just talk to you about a lesson beginning to end, it's probably not going to be long enough, or I'm probably going to rush through it and forget like a key piece. So you kind of want to, you don't have to have a PowerPoint, but you might want one just to like pace out the different things that you need. So like, you're going to want to make sure that you hit the standard. So like, if they're on a slide on the screen, you know you're going to at least hit it. Hi.
No, I don't know. Are we in week 4 or week 5?
We are on week 4. I opened up week 5 because the week 5 slideshow isn't a real slideshow. That's your sign up time for presenting.
I'm just curious about week 3 exit ticket. It says stalled on my lesson plan because
Are you?
I wrote I was stalled. I wrote I was still in week 4.
Are you green, yellow, or red?
Oh! You don't have to answer all of them.
No, not all of them.
I made a comment on my exit ticket. Didn't know we could use one drawing pattern.
And the internet hates me.
Let's just call it a night.
Just call it a night.
I have a math test.
No bueno.
There's a little teardrop. Unless she's still asking. We should sign the book for me. Okay, fine. Okay, lifelong readers. Yeah, no. I was a lifelong reader. So, hey, Adam. Oh. She's like,
Well, it's also one of those things where you guys are all expecting me to be late, so you're like, I'm fine.
Does anyone else listen to the little men out there that sing? What?
There's little men that sing.
The little old men in the parking lot that sing.
No.
Oh, I love them.
What do you say?
Really? They're in a circle out there, they bring their chairs and they sing.
It does seem adorable.
Out there. Yeah.
So we have 2 more classes. This one and next week.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're done next week?
And then we're done.
I'm going to continue my excitement.
Well, I have another night class starting after this.
Uh-huh. Is it the PE one? You guys are mostly all just shifting together.
I've already done that.
So
Oh.
you're doing the PE one?
Jenny and
Are you?
I
Not the class
are
this year, it's more.
Are you?
the PE?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Not if you have art teacher.
He was good, but it was just long.
No, Hannah. Our class is like.
No, he didn't know what he was doing. He literally had no idea what he was doing.
Who gets
All right, we are gonna go ahead and get started just because we want to get out of here and have more work time. Yeah. And because I already have Alex on the Zoom and she's just kind of sitting here watching nothing happen. And the people who are watching the YouTube playback are, 12 hours from now watching nothing happen for the first few minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm gonna have you do is we are going to think about our illustrated book review. Those of you that brought your books up to the pile, if you feel like you want the book during this discussion, feel free if you want to grab it back. You don't have to have it in your hands. Sometimes people just like having a thing when they're talking. It's like a comfort. If you want to have your illustrated book review up on your screen, go for it. But we are going to first pair up at a safe distance. So let's go with, will you be my friend who is Alex's partner? So she's on my computer. So you're gonna have to come to her. All right, Alex, I'm bringing somebody over to you to share your book review. You might want to switch to your a view of you just so that you can actually talk face to face to each other. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna have you guys pair up with the person next to you, safe distance, and you are going to share out some of the things about your book, some of the merits of why you think it would be a good book to use in the classroom. What does it have going well for it? Maybe some of the things that you question, and then some ideas that you have for how would you use this book in your classroom? Okay? I'm gonna be your partner for you. All right, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. Go.
I did my little.
Hello.
And
Hi. So I had the book Gone Wild, and it's like a deranged animal alphabet is how it's described on the front cover of the book. And basically what it is it's the alphabet, and it gives animals as ways to remember the letters. So A is alligator, and then that. And I think it's really good, but I feel like it's more for advanced children, because if you were just reading this to 5-year-olds, I don't really think they'd comprehend it. They think this would be for more your first grade or second grade level.
So it's basically just the alphabet and the animal.
Right, and then it has some descriptions of so for D is a duck. It gives you the class, the habitat, range, threats, and stats.
Okay, yeah, something
So
more.
that's what it made me think okay, this is for our more older kids. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well, but that was my reasoning of why I feel like it would be for older kids rather than younger kids.
Okay, makes sense. When you get into the class and all that stuff, I'm yeah, probably for an older crowd.
Yeah.
So the book that I got from her was The Interrupting Chicken. It's basically a little chicken that the dad's telling him a story at bedtime, and he just keeps interrupting, and I feel like the author did a really good job. Here, I'll show you an example. Because like the author makes, like, the illustrator makes you feel like you're inside the book,
Right.
so you're actually looking at the book, and then the little chicken pops up, and I feel like it'd be really good to get like the kids involved, because you could change your voice and all that.
Is that it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, it's awkward.
It's okay though.
Did you do your lesson plan over the same book, or did you do it over something else?
To be honest, I completely forgot about it till today. So we'll see.
Working on it tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what else we were supposed to talk about.
Me neither. I just thought like we give a summary of it, what we thought, and like was there anything we disagreed with is what I thought we were doing. But I don't know.
Alright. Instead of your hair, what we're going to do is we are going to square out. So you are going to take groups of two. We're going to square. Alex. And you are going to share out your partners. So while I look at Alex, you might want to refresh yourself on what their book was. Hopefully you were listening.
Hi, Alex. I'm taking you to the next group.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully I didn't lose you. Things are flickering on my screen. I'm going to pull you over here, but that's because, oh, actually, you know what? We don't have to. You can stay there. So you guys can be a group of 5. You guys can be a group of 4. Alex, I don't know which way to point you. You've got a group of 2 right here, and then you've also got somebody next to you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, who wants to share out their partner's book first?
I will. So my book it's actually a book that has no words in it. So it's just like, it's from like the perspective of something small, and then it just like bigger picture. I don't know how, you gotta look at it. And just like a bigger picture of like what the chicken was turns into like a house, and turns into like a frame.
Perspective.
Yeah.
I did like how I did it once.
It starts as something. Yeah.
And do you remember how I used it in a lesson?
Yeah, so then she's in the lesson by like having like wasn't it like a kid and then the family, and then how it like goes on like your ancestors, like just goes on to, and how like you're just something small, and then there's a huge,
Or like you're just a small part of
Yeah.
the bigger picture. And then it ends up being on a bus. You zoom out. And it's on TV.
That's true, but like the colors, no. It's just
And it's on a stand.
I'm so lost.
Kids really dig into it though. And eventually it's an airplane flying over the earth. And we zoom out, and like eventually we're like, long story short. So that was this one. Alex, what was your partner's book?
My partner's book was The Interrupting Duck, and he had said that it was about a father trying to tell a story to his young child, but the child keeps interrupting him. Yeah.
How would they use it in a lesson?
Well, I think it'd be a great way to show others that they have to wait for others to finish speaking before we interrupt them because it can be rude and impolite.
Okay.
Oh.
Anybody want to go next?
Like Ken.
Yeah.
Ken's book was, who's that now? Like, right?
Yeah.
And it's just
Sorry,
about
I didn't know.
three animals started in the last grade. And then more
And then the
that
back
come in and stay over the winter. And then
And you can keep them in your.
it's kind of like a food chain thing, but everybody was scared of being in the house. They thought it was kind of like kill them. So that's kind of how.
It's
it
so
went.
bad. See,
You're saying this on a day that I killed a spider and a wasp in my classroom. It's a big spider,
Oh
and
gosh.
any wasp is just bad. But
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad.
We didn't really get to the second part.
Okay.
Chrissy read the Very Hungry Caterpillar, it's just like the process of the caterpillar goes through before it becomes a butterfly. And then he said he would somehow incorporate like what an animal eats in a lesson plan, calling that like
Okay.
the process.
Very cool. Oh. All right. So my partner, she had the rainbow fish, and it was about the desirable scales on the fish and how everybody wanted those, and eventually the fish learned how to share them, and that actually made them happier than when they kept them all for themselves. And so it's just kind of that common theme of learning how to share with others, yet also at the same time like being happy with like that joy of like giving to others. And also in a little way, I think it's kind of being happy with like who you are, how you are. So like the other fish were okay with not being sparkly, but being able to be included in like that specialness was kind of fun. Good job, guys. They have a good group. Did you guys make it through, everybody?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good job. Good job. All right. So, does anybody have one book that they would really, really share out to the whole group?
I love my book.
Then tell us about it.
My book is The Little Teardrop, and well, it's personally signed by the author to me when I was a little baby. But the illustrations aren't like super out there; they're pretty simple. But you get to see all kinds of shapes. I thought it'd be good for like kindergartners. You see a teardrop shape, and then he meets a square, and a square hates him. But then you see a square, and then he meets a circle, and the circle hates him. And then you see a triangle, and triangle hates him. So he's really sad. But then he goes to talk about how he's all of those shapes in one teardrop, so square nose, circle body, triangle head. So you get like the shapes are really interesting. But then he meets another teardrop. And then he becomes a heart.
Aww.
And then you can cut out your shapes at the end and put them in your shape pocket.
Ooh.
Yes.
There's a tiny piece of me that's happy that the shapes are still in the book, though.
Oh, I didn't like cut them out.
I know. Photocopy that page,
I feel like that's a lesson plan right there.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And artsy because you can cut out the shapes, you know?
cutting on the line, definite skill. Not everybody has it. See, I'm telling you.
Can't call it like either.
Okay, no chicken wings, tuck them in. Thumb, you put a sticker right there, point it up to the sky. So when they're cutting, thumb is up, chicken wings are in. It stabilizes it.
I can't even cut straight on like a one of the big colors.
Oh, like
All right, our group. Anybody have one that they want to share? We're not as excited as, I'm sorry.
I love my book.
Yours was good.
You want to share mine?
Yours was like, it was a good
it's a
one.
good book. It's
Yeah.
hard to explain.
Hard to explain.
It's good,
Okay,
Yeah.
so my book is called Zoom. And Alex, I feel like I only showed you a little bit of this last time. Anyways, with Zoom, the downside of the book is it has no words. So, I know, no words. It's a picture book. So we start off with the chicken, it starts off with this shape, and we zoom out, and we have the chicken comb. And then we zoom out, and we've got the chicken outside the window. And then we zoom out, and by the way, I would keep repeating this every single page. And slowly but surely, they're on a farm. Oh, there's a hand, it's a toy. So now we're at the point where it's a toy, except there's some words right here. Oh, and there's another hand coming into the picture. So it's actually like on a magazine or an ad. And we slowly just keep zooming out and zooming out. So what happens with this is when I taught 3rd grade, I would take, and we'd have a lesson where eventually students would be learning about themselves, their family, their school, their town, their state, their country, the world, like their place and amongst the whole, right? So learning where things are, like just a tiny piece of it amongst the whole image. And we would do this like the week before, just kind of like a little spark, a little nugget of like what's coming up the next week. So it'd be more like a lead in, and then eventually we would pick different topics that would tell about them, and they would start zoomed in, and the rest of their picture they'd zoom out, and they'd zoom out, and they'd zoom, like they would give us more of the picture about like who they are in relationship to everybody around. And eventually those little people were sitting on the beach with the airplane flying overhead. Makes it out to the earth. Not quite yet. Surely. There's a little airplane. And eventually it's like a little speckle in the universe. But small to large, like each thing has its place. And that would be more like social studies, your place amongst the whole. So yeah, that would be something that we would cover. All right? Okay. If you had borrowed a book from me and you had turned it in, but you grabbed it just for this discussion, thank you. But you can stack it back on top of that front table again. Now I can power this thing back up again. Alex, if you really want, you can turn off your video feed. Because you're back to just facing the wall again. If I can get the computer screen back on. The display doesn't want to work. Does the flashing off button mean that it's really tired? Or that it like will self-destruct in 20 seconds? Here's the funny thing. My slides that I'm working from are like on the screen that's like not on my screen. So I can't even see where we were. Like in true typical fashion, like, could we make it any harder? I feel like it like went into like power save mode. That's not gonna be right. Oh, life, it's coming back. All right, a few of us were talking at the very beginning of class about lesson plans that you've turned in, but you were maybe missing a visual arts standard, and I probably added and assessment with that. Make sure that with each lesson you have one visual arts standard and one other standard. So if we're doing literature, it's like a writing standard or a plus an art.
Yeah. If that was one of us, I did it with you.
Yep.
Hypothetically, I did this. If we use that for our final lesson plan, and we put in our art standard, do you want us to like redo that as our, can we put that in as our redo for the lesson plan that we messed up on, hypothetically?
Yes. And you would definitely want to add it back in before you submit it for your final, because your final is worth twice as much.
Yes, but we can use our final lesson plan if we're using the same standards as our
Mhm.
original lesson plan.
So we don't have to alter the lesson, say we use one of our lessons, right? We don't have to alter it all if we don't.
You don't have to alter it all. I would make sure that it's not one that I've like if I've told you to do things with it, you're going to want to fix those things before you present it.
Okay.
But yeah, that it might be good enough. All right. Nope. So we paired, we squared, and we shared. This week we are talking about digital media arts, okay? We're also talking a little bit about STEAM, but this is more about the A in STEAM. Technically, we would also be covering the technology in STEAM. Now, with this week's lesson plan, what I want you to do is I don't necessarily want you to take a visual arts standard. What I want you to do this time is, do you remember that website that we got the visual arts standards from? No. It was the Iowa Board of Education.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the website, technically it's on the very first week slides. Okay? So if you go to that website, the Iowa Board of Education Fine Arts Core Standards, if you go on there and you scroll down, you're gonna pass dance and you're gonna pass like music and band and all that stuff. But there's one that's titled Digital Media Arts. That's where we wanna grab a standard from. It's still fine arts, but it's more like technology fine arts. It's kind of like the Hootie Tootie fine arts world, you know, like Pinky's Out Art Center people, where they've started to include digital media as like being a valued piece of them. But yet we don't quite want them in the fine arts, but they're like still there, but they're on their own. Okay. Eventually I'm sure they'll be together, but for right now, they're just on their own. Okay. If you choose a digital media arts and a fine arts one with something else, that's fine. But just know you should look through those digital media ones to go hunting for this. Yes.
So we can do just the digital media arts standard or do a technology and art standard? That's what you're saying? So we can just do one media arts standard?
Okay. I want to share this screen with Alex again. All right. What does digital media arts include? Animation, game design, stop motion, digital art, movie making, graphic design, web design, sound creating using technology. There's lots of different things. Technically, your creation for the week could be any of those. Okay? I struggle with this week on like forcing you to do like one thing. Like when we did the paint making, like that's a common thing that you might use in your classroom, but technology is going to be dependent on two things. What do you have available? and what do you feel most comfortable with? Because if I'm not comfortable making sound creation technology and creating my own songs and beats and rhythms, I'm probably not going to do that. Okay? I would be the best person for teaching my students that because I'm not super knowledgeable in that. Could I open it up as like an exploration thing for them where they might become the teacher in it because they'll be better than me? Yeah. But I don't want to like tell them I'm good at it, knowing full well that I'm not. This week, ones that I am going to show you a couple apps in particular. So one is stop motion. So when you think of like the little claymation videos, my kids make stop motion videos with Legos. So if you have like a little kid that you watch, or like maybe you do like an after school program, but they have like some Legos or something, like you could technically make one with them. And like you could entertain them for hours, but you would get your project done. So stop motion will be when you take single photos and you thread them together to make a video. Let's see here. Animation, game design, digital art, movie making. So we're gonna do a little green screen movie making as an option. I've got like the cheapest form of green screens that you might possibly ever need at your school. So, you know when you need like that bag of tricks and like you're hardcore for money and you're like, I can't afford anything? It'll happen. It'll happen to you eventually. So one of the things that my elementary classroom always had was just bright green tablecloths. Because we could tape them up on the wall, we could throw them over to the table, and when you videotape it, that stuff all disappears. But yet, like, this was just like $1. But it could cover a large area. By the time I taught middle school art, I had a whole wall in my art room that was just one solid color. And we would use, we had a green screen program that we could change the color. So like I could change it to burnt orange, and the burnt orange wall would disappear and we could make it a jungle in here on like all of our YouTube videos, technically. Think about some of the memes and stuff that you've seen when the first lady walked out and she had her bright green dress on, and then people would project different things on it. Like that ability to like manipulate photos. I'm not saying that maybe that's the best instance to use it, but it's one that people are using it for right now. So we've got stop motion. We're gonna do some green screen. We can do a little bit of animation. I'm gonna talk a little bit briefly about augmented reality. The app that I really liked is now discontinued, so I'm kind of heartbroken. And especially now that my phone completely updated, like I tried opening it last semester, I could open it and still show people. Now it's just decided that it's done. It like self-destructed practically on my phone. It's like, this can no longer update. Would you like to delete it? And I'm like, I guess so. I know, I was pretty heartbroken. So, I'm not sure this video actually works. I'm not gonna bother clicking on it right now. But augmented reality is gonna be when you are able to manipulate what's in front of you and turn it into real life. So if you think about like the My Talking Pet app, where you can take a photo of your pet and like you manipulate the little dots to like its face and its eyes and its mouth, you'd be able to move it and voice overlay. Like you could technically do a still framed image of, say, a piece of artwork that has like a person in it, or the cover of a book if it has a character from the book in it. And you could literally make that person your pet, and you could make their mouth move and they're talking. So you could write like an inner monologue of this character. I don't know, I could just see like the little rainbow fish talking. You know, the little kids would love it. We would get a kick out of it. Okay? So the app that I liked using was called Erasma, and then it switched to being called HP Reveal, and now it's just dead in the water. But I'm looking for one that will do the same thing. So in theory, this is what it did. So I would have like a notes sheet that I would use in class, like this. So students would have this sheet of paper. And this is actually what I used with my 8th graders. So they wheel throw, and I would be able to teach 6 people wheel throwing 4 days a week. The 5th day a week, I would teach the whole class. But then the other days of the week, I'm helping the people wheel throwing with like clay up to my elbows. So I can't stop to help them and explain everything. I can talk to them from across the room, but if they can get the information without me, that's even better. So with this particular app, I seriously want a replacement one. So if you want to make it for me, great. Let's talk. Game design, right? On the table is this box is literally just a box. That's their worksheet, journal reflection. But what would happen is when they scan it with the app, it would pop up a video, and that's when I was explaining it. So it's actually still me explaining that sheet to them. But I didn't have to be with them right then. We did it once as a whole group. They apparently thought they knew. A week and a half later, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is anymore. What do I do over here? So they went back to the video of it and they were able to pull it up. But they knew the video was linked to the document. That also helps, like currently right now, this would be a huge help with my remote learners because they could easily pull that back up. You remember when we had the Quiver app in here with the animal cell? And all of a sudden the animal cell would be floating above the table. So that's augmented reality. That's the same type of thing, just a different app. So once upon a time, Erasma was really cool, and now it's dead in the water. Anyways, the book Holes, my son actually used this app when he was in middle school, early middle school, 6th grade. But they did like book reports, and so they'd have books in the library and you could scan them, and it would like tell you about the book, whether you wanted to check it out or not. I can't show you it anymore because it's dead in the water. Goodbye, Erasma. I need to just delete it out of there, but I kind of want like a different one to replace it. Okay. A stop motion example. Anybody ever watch Marcel the Shell? Yes? Okay, we're gonna watch Marcel the Shell today because Marcel is pretty awesome. Alex, you're gonna have to tell me if this doesn't work on your end, okay?
Okay.
My name is Marcel. Oh no, that's not the first time I've done that. My name is Marcel, and I'm partially a shell, as you can see on my body, but I also have shoes and a face. So I like that about myself, and I like myself, and I know how I love my car as well. I know how it looks in here, but it's not always so messy, but I didn't know that you were going to have a camera, and I wish that you had said that you were going to be here today because I didn't clean up. I invited some friends from upstate to eat salad, so that's just how it looks right now. Guess what I wear as a hat? A lentil. One time I nibbled on a piece of cheese and my cholesterol went up to 900. Guess what I used to tie my skis to my car? The hair. Guess what my skis are? Toenails from a man. You want to see me talk on the phone? Oh, this is me. What? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah. Well, I could do it. Yes. What? It would be my pleasure. Yeah, I did. Yeah, inside, I forgot to write a note. Thank you so much. Guess what I use as a beanbag chair? A raisin. Guess what I do for adventure? I hang glide on a Dorito. Guess what I use as a pen? I use a pen, but it takes a whole long. I'm afraid to drink soda because I'm afraid the bubbles will make me float up onto the ceiling. Okay, my one regret in life is that I'll never have a dog. But sometimes I tie a hair to a piece of lint and I drag it around. I love you. Come. One time I smelled the smell from an old tennis sneaker and it knocked me right out. One time I looked at a diamond and it gave me a sunburn. His name is Alan. Guess where I found him? Under a tooth. Well, you know what they say. Lint is a shell's best friend. You want to watch me try to lift this? Alright. No, I can't lift anything up at all. Sometimes people say that my head is too big for my body, and then I say, compared to what? Brother once got in a fight with someone else, and guess how he killed him? He impaled him on the brush. We won't fight unless we're provoked. Here, come here. Come here. Come here. I love you. Come on.
All right, so that one's more of a humorous take, but when watching it, what kinds of things did you notice that the artist, the director, did with not just perspective, but like point of view? What things did they control or change?
They kind of like control. I don't really know how to say, like when it was pulling that thing in across the picture. I guess I don't know.
Okay, so controlling the
Like actions or whatever.
the actions, the lint. How do you suspect they accomplished that scene? Like one version is they might have just taken like still picture, move it a little, still picture, move it a little, still picture, move it a little. But in order to make it smooth, you have to be certain that your camera is still. So tripod, if you don't have a tripod, like maybe even just taping your camera up or propping it up on something so it's not you holding it and then trying to find the same spot. Like let the camera be, move the objects, photo, move the objects, photo, like, but just keep that camera as still as possible to make the movement believable. How did Marcel lift the crayon? She kind of shimmied underneath it. As the person who would be videotaping it, how do you think they got the fake shell to lift the crayon? Do you want me to go back to that shot?
Do you want to watch me try to lift this? Alright. No, I can't lift anything up at all. Sometimes
Somebody's just out of frame on the other side of the camera moving it, where you're moving it just enough, but they're still like not in it. It's like the magic of figuring out how to make that work, right? All right, what other changes in point of view did we notice? Besides the low toilet scene. So we've got the camera angle super low. That makes that toilet look giant. What other type of angles do you remember seeing?
Which is on the counter and she's next to the food.
On the counter next to the food. So we're giving like maybe some clues about the storyline that's kind of hanging out around it. I feel like that was more of a downward shot too. Do you remember any other parts? So we've got kind of in front, dragging around the lint on the floor down at the lint level. So there we've got like the counter and the salad, the leaves on the plate. We talk about the stinky shoe. It's kind of ominously in the background. On the phone, literally standing on the phone. This particular one uses a lot of puns. And I'd say probably a lot of sass too. Okay. So, some things that we'll need to consider. How does this relate to the Common Core? Maybe not just like this as in digital media arts, but just arts, like how do they relate to the other areas? So this graphic is going to take it through the arts in the middle, and then it's also going to take English language arts in the bright green, math in the blue. So just like, how do they line up with it? Like when somebody decided that these things make sense together, like what were they looking at, right? So this might help you with planning that final lesson plan if some of it's a little bit still confusing. So we want to think about connecting learning opportunities for the arts and Common Core. So we think about the arts as more of like a backbone of the integrated meaningful learning, where the things that you notice, the learning that you notice is the other things, the reading, writing, the math. You notice the learning with this. The arts is just kind of like what holds it together and makes it make sense. And if it makes sense to you guys, that's because you're starting to have that teacher lens and you're seeing it through that, okay? A lot of other people, like they won't see it, like they won't get it. Okay, so with these particular content areas, we're looking at the practices and the big ideas. And we're also thinking about learning as a process-based like system, okay? So we're not just looking at like one step and you're done. It's more about like how to be a better learner so that I can do it on my own. All right? So when we talk about creating and the national standards in the top middle, if we were in the writing standards, that's when they're producing their own writing. In the fine arts, that's when they're creating the artwork, when they're pulling the music together to perform, when they're pulling together a theatrical piece. In math, when they're creating, that's when they're learning how to model with math, okay? They're just setting up the functions. When we're presenting or we're presenting the production of it and we're performing it, so when I'm in the act of making things, so in the act of making artwork, when you're in the act of performing on stage in theater, when you're in the middle of a concert performing, so when you're in the act of it, that's the same type of thought process, big idea-wise, as when you're speaking and listening and you're presenting that information, okay? It's that same type of struggle. So when some of you think about, I'm going to be standing up here presenting my lesson, you might have some of that same nervous anxiety as when like I tell you, oh, we're gonna create this. And then you're looking at it like, like that apprehension. That's the same type of apprehension people have when they're gonna come up here and stand and present in front of people. It's a similar parallel type of experience when you're doing it. Okay, with that, with math, this one I feel like is a little bit of a struggle to connect, but they're saying that it's attending to the precision of it. So making sure that like as you're doing the math problem that it's precise, that you're doing it the right way. That it's the how you're doing it. So like with my son, he loves doing his math problems on graph paper because he really, really likes like straight math number columns. It's very particular. In the arts, in the center, where it says respond, language, making effective choices with meaning and style, with math, constructing viable arguments for like how you got a certain answer. When you're responding to artwork, you're responding to your own artwork. You could be responding to a peer's artwork, somebody else in the class. You could be responding to like a famous work of art. Or if we're looking at the connection standards in art, that's usually similar to the interpreting reading choice ones, the word choice, the analyzing choice. So that's the type of connections you would make. So if you have talking about artwork in your lesson plan, this might be the direction that you go, where you might be looking at a language one or a word choice or analyzing the structure when you're connecting. With math, you'd be making sense of problems, persevering, working through the problems. Okay, keep in mind that it's about the process. It's not just about my Excel diagram that I came up with at the end. It's about what did you learn at the different steps along the way. All right, it says sign up right there, but I don't really want to put like a paper out here for you to sign up on. So in order for you to sign up for your presentation slot, I went ahead and opened up week 5 on Blackboard. And if you, for some reason, can't get on Blackboard, I can pull up mine on my computer. And I can also do it this way. So they're roughly 6-minute time slots. So under the column with your name will be the one that you're going to want to sign up in. So feel free to jot down your name. If you already have your topic, you could put it in the other box next to it. If you are normally a person who is on Zoom, like Alex, or if you're on like the YouTube playback version, they're going to be creating, like if they choose the non-in-person version, they're going to be creating their presentation on video, but the video has to be uploaded to YouTube and the YouTube link shared with me by midnight between Sunday, Monday. So that way I can put the YouTube links in that we can get to them in class. If you, in-person people, are really, really set on like, you know what, I want to do that option. I want to do the recorded version so I can fix mistakes, things like that. You can also do that, but just know that it has to be uploaded on YouTube. Email me the link prior to midnight the night before. We had some people who didn't want to watch themselves on video. So if you must step out in the hallway for the 6 minutes of your video. We've had a question of if their puppet could present their lesson plan instead of them. I mean, if you're going through the work of it, I guess you could have your puppet present your lesson plan, but you're going to want to make sure you have everything that we're doing. Right? Nobody went to the very end. That's actually probably good. You guys don't have as many students. So if you leave the last 2 blank, we might not even be here though. And I totally went to highlight it and did nothing of the sort. So if you don't do the bottom two, technically we could, but if you don't do those, there's a really good chance we'll be out of here early next week. Not super early, but kind of early. There's also a pretty good chance I'll do most of the in-person ones first. So that way we have a sequential video thread of those, and then I can just post that one video. And then you'll have the option of the other ones. The very last class with the presentations, you get credit for giving feedback to the presenters, but your feedback is due by Tuesday night. So I'm not gonna let that one just kind of hang out there forever. In person, we're gonna be done giving feedback like that night. You'll walk out of here, you're done with that, which is like a good feeling, trust me. If they're watching the YouTube playback, they're only going to have till Tuesday night to do it. Because here's the thing. The YouTube videos of the recorded ones are already going to be up. They're going to be able to get to those. So they could technically have some of them already done before our live ones get started. Just out of curiosity, of the 8 of you, how many of you think you would present live just because it's a quick 6 minutes, you could do it and you don't have to worry about it? All of you? Okay. Just curious. All right. We are going to keep rolling. All right, do ink. Alex, am I sharing my screen anymore with you? I don't feel like I am. Okay. Let me share that. All right, one of the apps that you're gonna have the option of using, if you wanna do this one on your own and on your own time, I'm gonna give you a heads up. There is a link to some video, or a link to like a printout of tutorials that are, they're kid-friendly tutorials. So literally like you could print those and give them to your class. This app is super kid-friendly. Like if you use this, it's gonna be easy for you to figure out. The downside of it is, currently right now on your own, if you were to do this one, outside of this class for just this lesson plan, the app does cost money. But I currently have it. So if you were to make this before you left, I've got it on both of my kids' iPads and my phone that we could just sanitize it quick. You do your thing on there, and then I'm just gonna have the sticky note that I put up there that has their password on it so you can get into their iPad. Please don't do things that you shouldn't in it. I mean, they are like little kids. But I'm gonna have you sign your name to it so that I know to go in there and watch your video. Then you don't have to even upload it to Blackboard, which is in and of itself its own struggle. This week when we do these bigger technology things, it takes a long time to upload to Blackboard. I would say half of the people end up losing their Wi-Fi connection, either because they close their computer thinking they're done, or they head to a different class or whatnot, but they lose their connection and the upload is only half done, and then I can't grade it until like you get to class or things like that. So don't delete whatever it is that you create until you know I've graded it, okay? If it's on one of those devices, I can easily grade it and it'll just go in there, right? What is she doing? That's a good question, right? Should we watch it and see? Yeah, we should. this how-to video is geared towards little kids. So they're gonna really water it down and make it simple and really happy, cheery, okay?
Photos can be incredible classroom tools, and in this tutorial, create interesting photos on your iPhone using the green screen by Doing App. Start by collecting the background images you want and save them to your camera roll. It's best to use the green screen app in landscape mode to make these photos, as this is the aspect ratio supported for output. Make sure your iPhone is not locked in portrait mode by swiping up from the bottom on the home screen to display the control center. Set the portrait orientation lock to off. Now launch the Green Screen by Doing app. Tap the plus sign in the upper right and then tap Create a New Project. On the bottom timeline, tap the plus sign and then select Image. Tap the photo you want to use. In this case, choose a photo of a page from a book you like. Tap Use. Position and resize your image by using the two-finger drag and pinch gesture. Tap the layer icon on the bottom left, which is the icon with 3 horizontal lines and an arrow pointing up. This will cause all 3 of the app's layers to appear. Select the middle layer by tapping it. Then collapse the other layers by tapping the layer icon. Tap the plus sign and then select Image. Choose the photo of your student shot on a green screen. In this case, the picture of your student reading a book. Tap Use and the app will automatically place this image on top of your first image and remove the green background since the chroma key is turned on. Position and resize the image by using a two-finger drag and pinch gesture. Now, toggle the save switch from video to image. This will change the app from saving a green screen video to saving a green screen photo. Tap Save to compile your 2 image sources. Tap Done. A box will then pop up that reminds you that you have not yet saved your image, just compiled it. You are then prompted to either discard this image, show the export options such as Twitter and Facebook, or save to the camera roll. Tap Save to Camera Roll. A box will appear that reads Success. Your image has been saved to the camera roll. Tap OK, then tap Done. Then tap the arrow pointing left in the upper left to return to your gallery.
She didn't.
Think of all the ways you can use green screen photos for book reviews and trailers, postcards from virtual field trips, scenes from historical events. Endless creative possibilities.
All right, did it give you a few ideas though that you could do? Okay, here's the deal. You could use this for your technology creation tonight. You could use this for your technology creation and your lesson plan, because you could use the how-to video as part of your directions. You could use your creation as like your example. You would just have to go back and fill in some of the other stuff that you want it to be like about, flesh out the lesson plan. So if we were researching different coastline regions around the world, we might have like a map or a picture of the coastline, and students might be talking about it, or your puppet might be talking about it. Okay, so couple options. You can also build yourself a green screen. So that's like a cereal box with like green paper on the front. So that has possibilities. I do have some loose papers that are possible things you can use to work with. They're also kind of jimmying their own little tripod stand. All right, so that one looks like the video might be not so great anymore. I would probably check on that. we'll skip over it. It's just another example. I'll check it to see if it's actually one that's working. But it just has different examples of that. These two examples, so bottle and then the maker, these are both examples of stop motion. They're more from like a professional standpoint. So like when we watched Marcel the Shell, that was more like a comedian type standpoint, right? These are going to be more professional. Bottle is more about like gaining a friend from far away. So if you wanted to do something leading into like pen pals, that would be a good one. The maker is, I don't think I would use it for little kids. I think that one would be more middle school. It's kind of like a little bit macabre, which they're gonna kind of find as like interesting. But then it deals with music and a little bit like Frankenstein, where they're like bringing this character to life from the dead. So those are options. The behind the scenes in the maker, so that video shows how they went through making the set design and things like that with it. That might be something that you find interesting. It might be something that if you were incorporating it as a lesson where you could show students how to make like the set and things like that. This one happens to be bottle. So it's like this little guy on the beach. And then eventually he's gonna find his friend that's far away in the snow. It's really cute, but we're gonna skip over it so you have more work time, okay? But at some point, I would say watch that one. This one has a little macabre side. They bring something to life from the dead, but it is still pretty cool. All right, when you think about what it is that you're going to create digitally, you want to think about your storyline, your plot line, right? You don't want to completely leave us hanging. Like when you start a story, like you at least want to give it, even if it's 30 seconds long, you want to give us kind of that full storyline of what's happening. Okay? So things to think about in your creation. You don't have to use one of those two. The one stop motion. So these iPads up here have the app stop motion. I have it on my phone. Doing green screen costs a little bit. Stop motion, I believe, is free. So if you want to just put together short pictures, you totally could. If it's stop motion, 30 seconds is plenty long because you have like 3 to 6 pictures in a second. Yeah. And that's a lot of pictures. Another option for stop motion is, I want to say the right thing with this app, Flip-A-Clip. Anybody? No? Anyways, Flip-A-Clip is a little bit like creating stop motion with like sticky note drawings. So like if you've ever made like a sticky note stack and you draw the next one, it shows you, and you draw the next one. Like you can do that, but like on your phone. Like you can stick draw, like line draw the simple figures and make it. I've got a couple kids at school that love making those. Flip-A-Clip. Flip-A-Clip. That's another option. Yep, that one you can draw on your device on the phone. The gentleman in my digital media arts class that I have at high school, they have Android phones that they use, but because they're creating a project on it, I have it on my phone. Mine's an Apple, so like it's both platforms. They really, really like it. Okay, what should you have in your lesson plan? What should you prepare for your presentation? I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. You might want to either revisit these slides or just take a couple photos of them. Either way works, okay? When you're presenting live or in video, when I'm looking at your lesson plan, so the lesson plan is what you're submitting online, like you're literally submitting a physical lesson plan like you have, right? Same as you have been. You're typing it up and you're sending it in, okay? I'm looking for a brief description of the lesson plan. So if I read just that tiny little paragraph, I have an idea of what the whole thing is about, okay? Brief description. I'm going to look for the Iowa Core Standards, or it says Next Generation Art Standards. So just know you need a core standard and an art standard for sure, okay? Otherwise I'm gonna be like, where's your art standard? Remember, it's an art class, okay? So make sure you have both of those. Learning objectives. So what is it that you want the students to be able to do? What do they need to know by the time they're done with that lesson, okay? Like, what are you actually trying to get them to know? No, this is for your final. Digital media is pretty much the exact same as all the other ones that you've done. I just want to make sure that you have these for the big one, right? But honestly, if you have these for your other one, like, you're good on all of them. Assessment plan. If you have an objective, you should be assessing it, okay? You should have a way of documenting that, yes, the students learned something, okay? Now, usually it requires a bit more than just them sharing out what they did. It probably is going to include some sort of checklist where you're going through, like, yes, they have this in their project. Yes, they have that. Oh, they forgot to add their character, or they forgot to add shading, or they forgot to tell me about this person's point of view in their project. Like, what is it that you're looking for when you're assessing it? If you want, at the end, we can talk a little bit about rubric building. Have you guys had like an assessment class where they teach you how to write rubrics? I know a fair number of you raised your hand for, like, I haven't written more than one lesson plan. So I'll show you an easy way to do them. The lesson plan procedures, this is like the most important part for, like, if you're gone, what does the substitute teacher do? That's the lesson plan procedures. That's what, if somebody walks in their room, that's the part they want to be able to read, because they can act like you're not there. All the other stuff is the stuff that teachers do behind the scenes. The lesson procedures is what you do in front of the students. Okay? Differentiation catches people up in different ways. Okay? I want every single one of my students in class to be able to get from here to there. Now, here's the problem. This student might not speak as fluent of English as me. This student over here might have trouble sitting still. That one over there might not be able to hear well. Johnny had a bad day. Like, he might not be, like, normally he's great. Today he's just like, can't focus. What am I doing for all of the different needs for the students to get them where we need to go? So differentiation is basically, how do I make the lesson procedures different to meet each need of every student? When you're writing a lesson plan without an actual class in front of you, it's a guessing game. I'm guessing at possible problems I could have in my classroom, and I'm preparing for what I might need to change to meet their needs. Okay? A lot of times, the more you teach a lesson, each class you adapt it naturally to fit them, just because you get a feel for your own class. But then eventually you'll hit a class, you're like, whoa, like that, nothing stuck to the wall. They did not get that. Like next day we need to back up and reteach it. The differentiation is like, what am I gonna do different? Okay. Materials list. If you're presenting live in class and you need me to bring something, this materials list is pretty important because you're going to need to send me a request that I actually bring stuff with me. Because if nobody sends me any request, I'm just rolling in with my computer and I'm like, sweet, I don't have to carry anything in today. I will though, I'll bring stuff. If you need me to bring scissors and glue, markers, typing paper, like I can, that's fine. Okay. If you need me to print something off for you, you want to have it to me early so that I have time to print it. Yes.
So like, we only have 16 minutes, so do we just make our activities, like here you have like a minute, but this would usually be this.
Yes.
We have to do an activity.
You don't have to do an activity, but here's the thing, like it's an arts-based lesson, right? So like chances are there's probably a something in there somewhere that they're making, right? You might, you don't have to, but you might do a PowerPoint that you can kind of have up here to like, I don't want to forget these things when I'm presenting it. So I might have a slide that has the description. I might have a slide that has the standards so I can look at it and I'm not going to forget it when I get to the point of presenting. It might say like, oh, we're going to spend 15 minutes on this, and I pass it out and I kind of tell you about it. You might give these guys like a minute to work on it and they'll be like, okay, pretend we finish this. This is how I would close the activity. This would be the discussion that happens after it.
But since it's for, like, let's say, like, our kindergartners,
Mm-hmm.
I can give them an activity.
Yes.
I don't have to make it for.
No, it's not at their level, it's at the kindergarten level. Yeah. So if you have them making like clouds, they're making clouds. All right. References, just don't forget where you get things from. So like if I pull in the doing tutorial video, I want to give them credit, things like that, right? The lesson plan, if you have all those things, you can pretty much follow that lesson plan for your presentation. It says 8 to 10 minutes. Just think 6 to 8. I had to shorten it because we had a few classes that were larger and I just never made it longer again. When it says format, that's what we were just talking about. Like, am I just telling them about my lesson? Are we doing my lesson? That's the part you need to decide. Are you going to talk teacher to teachers? Are you talking teacher to students? And all of a sudden you're all my kindergartners? Or are you going to mix and switch back and forth? You're going to tell us about the lesson at the beginning, teacher to teachers. All right, now we're going to jump into the lesson plan procedure. You're going to be jumping into this activity. This is what I would do. So it might be a blend of the two. Okay. The 4 categories for the art standards are create. They're either performing, presenting, or producing. Responding and connecting. So this is more of talking about artwork, right? You might consider which standard area you're going to be doing. A physical example. So if it's a creation that they're making, you should have an example that you've made. That is a good thing to have with your lesson plan. Plus then that way we can see where it's going. Okay. And if I've walked myself through it once and I've done the lesson, I can explain how to do the lesson better than if I've never done it. Okay. Normal presenting things. So whether it's recorded on, recorded and uploaded on YouTube, or whether you guys are live in person, you want to think about your tone, your clarity, your presence in front of people. It says passion, but just like, oh, like I'm so tired, I don't want to do this. Like, at least like pretend like you want to present to us for 6 minutes. Any connections that it might be made between arts and other areas. feel free to add those in. Okay, exit ticket is still on that Google Doc. If you are someone who has no clue what I'm talking about when I say these exit tickets, or you've never seen that Google Doc, you should email me. I have a few people who haven't done any of them yet. And they're like the easiest 20 points you could get.
Each one's a 20 points.
No, each one is 5 points, but total, they equal like one whole lesson plan assignment. Like, it's like a gimme in your grades practically. But that's on that Google Doc. Okay, here's the important part that you want to know. Week 5 is next week. Week 5 is our last class in person. On the next slide, I'm gonna have week 6 up there. You're not with me on week 6, but everything is due by then, okay? So week 5 is going to seem backwards. Because here's the deal. Your technology stuff is not due by next Monday. What is due is what you have to present in class. Like, think about it logically, right? I can't present it if I haven't made it yet. Okay, so your 4 exit tickets, you could technically have them done tonight if you're on top of it. Your creation that goes with your lesson, that's not like a separate thing. You don't have to turn that in separately. It should just go like with your lesson, whether you're in person here or whether it's connected to your lesson plan. Okay, your final lesson plan is worth twice as much as the other lesson plans. Okay, you do want to focus on that one. Okay, that one is written, typed up, and submitted on Blackboard. Your presentation of your final lesson. You are either live in person or it's via YouTube. The link is emailed to me by midnight on the 27th. So that way the rest of us can finish up class when we would normally be. Okay, I'm gonna change the screen on you. You ready? You got this? You good? Okay. For week 6, there's no class this week. Don't come and see me this week. I won't be here. Okay, for week 6, your technology stuff, all the stuff we talked about tonight. Your creation of your stop motion, your green screen, your augmented reality, whatever that technology creation is that you're gonna make. That's due the week after. So you have 2 weeks for that. If you get on the ball and you do it tonight before you leave, you might be done with it though. Your lesson plan on media arts integration. If you can finish your technology creation, you could probably create your lesson plan about what it is that you created. Maybe that's what you're doing your final lesson plan for and you're just finishing it all at once. Okay? Any resubmissions, any past projects that you need to resubmit in. If you want to gain back those 2 points here and there, if you forgot to do something completely, if something didn't load right, make sure that it's all there, okay? The absolute deadline, absolute. So I'm telling you October 6th, everything is due. There's always a few people that trickle things in after that. Plus, I'm probably gonna be grading things between October 5th and like this October 12th. And if I give it back to you and you still wanna resubmit it again, just do it and resubmit it. And then I'll get back to it when it comes back down to the bottom of the list, right? So October 12th is absolute done. On Tuesday the 13th, I'm posting your grades. Once I post those, I can't change them. Okay? So like, don't give me the sad email because you didn't check your emails up until then because you hadn't seen me for 2 weeks. Like, you have to get those things resubmitted right away. Okay? There's a few people that I have midterms out for. If you didn't get a midterm in this class, that's because most everything that you had is turned in. If I gave you a midterm, that's because I'm a little hesitant and a little worried because you're kind of falling behind. Okay? So, the things on this list, they're important, but you've got a little more time. The final presentation stuff, you need to have done by next week. Okay? All right, any questions on those deadlines, due dates, anything like that? All right, I'm gonna grab another website and I wanna show you one thing. If you have any questions for me about your final stuff, feel free to kind of start thinking about what those are gonna be. So there's a website called ThemeSpark. It's been a little while since I've been in, so I might have to hack my own account. It's not going to autofill, that's not good. Let's see which password I used. That's a good sign. You know when you shouldn't use like your password for everything, but then you do? That's, I feel like one of those. Either that or we just have really terrible internet right now and it hasn't kicked me out yet. Okay, this website, once we get in there, I would strongly recommend it for a number of reasons. But what it has and what it does is actually really good if you're in a pickle. So I can pick topics or content areas, and then I can narrow it down, and it will generate the standards, and I can narrow it down, and it'll let me pick different ones. So I can pick an art one, I can pick a literature one, I can pick a social studies one. And after I have those selected, it'll spit out the rubric for me for those standards. It's a little generic on the rubric. I can go in and edit to kind of like tweak it a little bit. It really is not happy. It really is not happy with me. But it lets you download the rubric. You can build lesson plans on their website. You can borrow lesson plans from other people on the website. Now you'd have to kind of like use your own judgment, like, is this person in Georgia and they're teaching Georgia standards versus our standards here? But you might be able to adapt them if you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. But it's another place that you can go. All right, that looks like it just doesn't want to work real great. Let's see if I can pull it up in here. All right, while I'm doing this, anybody have questions about their lesson plans, things that they're wondering? Yep.
If we're using a lesson plan that we've already used and you haven't given us any bad feedback on it, we can just resubmit it.
Mm-hmm. If you resubmit it early enough, like, or if you email me and you're like, hey, I want to use this lesson plan, will you just look at it one more time? I can give you like even more feedback or be like, oh, you might want to add this just to like make it a little stronger. Hacking my own account. What if I forgot my password?
We don't have a article.
There is none. Nope. So you're lucky with that. And it hates me. Oh, let's see if I signed in with Google. All right, I am in. Alex, I'm gonna switch screens that I'm sharing with you. Let's see if I can make this smaller. Okay, so in ThemeSpark, you could create your own page, but they're gonna catalog your rubrics. I might actually hate the internet here just a little bit more every time I do anything. Okay, so what if I take that back over here? Okay. Example. So the output, so if I did a lesson plan on literature and I was using the book Tar Beach, so I could make the lesson plan and it'll have the whole standard, and then it'll have the 4 different levels of whether the standard wasn't met. They kind of understand, but they don't really. Standard was met, so this is where most of the students will be, is a 3. And if they're exceeding, that might fall into that. So this one has a connecting art standard. It also has a writing standard. And then I could take and download that little 2 rubric thing and spit it out. Now here is the deal. I'm going to grab this window. Nope. I'm gonna grab this window because that doesn't like me, but it likes it over here. I'm going to go back and let's see if it'll let me create a new rubric. So I can select the, Alex, is it still showing you the screen with the create a rubric?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So if I go through and I want art and I want science, I'm going to save those 2 categories. I really want 3rd grade topics. So when it says connecting and creating, like those are the art topics, right? I might be creating, it's going to give me earth and space sciences, engineering, life sciences. That's an art one, I know. Physical science, responding, engineering practices. Let's go engineering practices. I'm going to save those 2 categories. Then it's going to give me the standards over here. So those are my 3 options for the art one. So generate, conceptualize artistic ideas. I can select that standard if I want it. Organize and develop ideas. So maybe I just want to the planning of the organizing ideas. There's 2 options underneath it. I want the second one. And then engineering, let's see. Ask questions, define problems. I do not want all of those. So if we are developing artistic ideas and work, we want to ask what could happen if we're changing a variable, or we could do cause and effect. So if a variable is changed in cause and effect, we're going to do those two as well. So all of a sudden now my standards over here, it's giving my 3 levels and my 3 standards. My school reverses the grading, so we put our highest thing first. So we try and put like what the kids are shooting for first thing that they read, and then work our way over. If you want to change the title, you need to decide how you're assessing. So I could use a rubric to know what I'm assessing, and that would give me criteria. Sometimes with little kids, it's a checklist. So if we're having a discussion, these are the 3 things I'm listening for in that discussion that they said. So it might be, it's like this, but it's not 4 categories. It's literally yes or no. So a checklist is technically a 1-point rubric. They either did it or they didn't. All right, but I can title it, I can change my words, I can click my edit stuff. But when you get to your class that you have to do this in, it might kind of help you out. Sometimes having some words is better than no words at all to work with. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna stop sharing that with Alex. I'm gonna move that off of this sheet over here. I need to get some of the passwords over there for you guys. Alex, do you have any questions?
I do not.
You do not. That was a lot of stuff though, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a tad much.
A tad bit, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, like all of you who were like, I've done 1 lesson plan. Now like in 5 weeks, you're like, I've done a bunch, I can do them. Like I can write these now. Hopefully. Hopefully you're not like still nervous about writing them. Okay. So, I don't know why I put a B. If you are borrowing one of my kids' iPads right now, I'm mentally hacking into their iPads and like myself. I think. Or she just doesn't even put her password on anymore, because that's cool. Alright, so apparently she's not even password protecting it. Alright, so stop motion is a little blue camera. Doing green screen is a pink octopus. And apparently that's her volleyball team. Used to be her gecko. Alright. His are both on his 3rd screen, but they're both mixed in there as well. Do I have anyone in here who wants me to tape up the green background? Anybody that wants to do green screen? No? Not so much? I won't tape it up if we don't need to. both of those are options that you can use. Or you can make it on your own. Okay? You can use the class time to get some of the things on that list done. Or you can like give and take some time. So if you need to take some class time now, but you're like, oh, I'm just gonna work really hard on it later this week. Don't forget to though. That's totally up to you. All right? Okay, Alex, if you don't have any more questions, then you'll be free to work. So, anything else that you're thinking about?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right then. See you later.
Goodbye.